Hello. I'm sure as a cricketer you must have come across pressure. The thing is, cricket is one of those games which is individual as well as team sport as well. So what happens with that is that you always in the state of competition, and when you're under competition then obviously you want to perform well, and when you perform well you have that extra bit of pressure on yourself. So what cricketers around the world does, they use this anxiety which comes with pressure to perform even more better. So basically they don't actually survive the pressure, they thrive the pressure. And today in this video today we'll be talking about how to use these state of pressures to perform even more consistently in your career. So I hope you will like the video today. Thank you. Hello, Simon. So the topic we'll be discussing today is, I'm going to tell you what I've been watching recently. Is I was watching the Test match cricket between England and West Indies, and we are very lucky that cricket is back on again. But I was a bit sad to watch, like, even though I was very excited, obviously cricket is back on, but I was a bit sad, but because there weren't many spectators watching the game. So obviously, like as cricketers, like when you watch international cricket, cricketers are always talking about crowd pressure, media hype, cameras all over. But what this pandemic has showed to us is, like, cricket, I mean, sport is a very important factor in our life and for our mental well-being, because during all this lockdown for the past 4 months, the most important thing which was missed among all of the people around the world, I'm sure, including me, was cricket, sport, and we weren't allowed to come out of the house. So on one side, we love the game, we want to go out and play, but on the other side, there's always like this element of pressure as well. So I was thinking for the past 3 days, it's like, wherever I've traveled around the world, even if it's England, Australia, New Zealand, Pakistan, we always think about pressure. As a cricketer, we always think about pressure. And because of that pressure, that moment when we're playing, we start thinking negative about the game. But in the long run, we lost the game. So there's negativity involved, but there's positivity as well, which is we love the game. So the question now is, and what we want to show to our audience is, like, how to use this pressure, which is called a good pressure, in a positive way, so we perform even better. Because according to one research is, good pressure is good for you. It brings you anxiety at the beginning, but it makes you concentrate really hard as well. Because if you don't have this pressure, you don't concentrate.
Yeah.
So now the question is how to use this pressure to thrive in your field, which is cricket.
Yeah, and it's perfect, because you're right. It doesn't matter what level you're at. You're always going to feel that. And like you say, I think that is, we kind of look at pressure, I think, very often in a very negative way. So you hear it from the media and you'll hear it from coaches. They actually say you're going to be under pressure, which kind of just feels that you have this weight on you, this weight on your shoulders. So very often when I work with people, we change the word pressure to purpose, because when you have a purpose for doing something, that means that you have enthusiasm and motivation. You have to do it. And you know what it's like when you have to do something. It's a very different mindset than I would just do it. So let me explain. When we talk about pressure, we very often, like you say, it's almost like a negative thing. But with purpose, it's about what is a positive thing. So instead of what you could lose, it's more about what you can gain. So for cricket, it could be the pressure. You're an opening batsman, and you know that you're going to face a bowler of high quality. So when you talk in terms of pressure, it could be that, this guy's going to be really fast. He knows that I'm going to be a bit nervous to begin with. And all I want to make sure is that I just survive the first few balls at least. If I can get some runs on the board, that would be great. But whatever you do, do not go out the first or the second ball. That's when we talk about pressure. But when we talk about purpose, we could say, okay, I'm the opening batsman, and this is my job. My job is to face whoever is the bowler. It makes no difference. My job is to execute my technique to the best of my ability. And my purpose for doing that is very, very simple. I'm the opening batsman. I might not be the captain, and it doesn't make any difference. But my purpose is, when I'm out there, not only am I playing for my team, so not only am I playing for myself, but I'm representing my team. I've got those people who are watching, who are supporting me, who I train with, and it's my job to assist them so I can give our team a good lead, a really substantial lead. And thank the Lord, I am able to do that. I've been given that privileged position. So now we're talking in terms of gaining rather than losing. So, so we have to look at pressure in a different way. And I invite everyone to try this, to quite simply change that word from pressure to purpose. See if it works for you. Because, all the ideas that we have, some work really great for some, others are going, well, it might not, it kind of works. And that's absolutely fine. We are all individuals. So it's not like, this isn't maths where, you have a problem and there's the equation, that's it, there's no arguing. With what we do, which I think you would agree makes it so fascinating, is that we can come up with an idea, a solution, but if it doesn't work, it's absolutely fine. We can come up with some. So that's number one. I think that fundamentally, changing the word from pressure to purpose, I think for a lot of people would actually make a considerable difference. The other thing I was going to say regarding pressure was that the way that we frame it. Okay, so we have something called a reframe, which looks at the situation slightly differently. So again, look, we always like to come up with stories, and I think that's probably the best way of dealing with this. So I remember, this is outside of sport, this is outside of cricket, but I remember watching an interview with a very, very famous entrepreneur. And the guy who was interviewing him said, so, tell me what's happening right now and tell me how you got to where you are. And he said, I knew I was going places when I actually got to 10,000 followers, which was on Instagram, I think. He said, because when you get to about 10,000, you start to get haters, start to get people that really don't like you. And the guy who was interviewed said, that's quite sad. He said, well, that's just the way it is. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just the way it is. And the conversation went on. And then the guy interviewed him said, so, before we go, what are your goals for this year? He said, well, this year, I'm going to try and get 2 million people that hate me. And everyone laughs. And the guy went, I'm quite serious. He said, why on earth would you want 2 million people to hate you? He said, well, if 10% are haters and I've got 2 million that hate me, that means I've got 18 million who absolutely love me. And I thought, that is genius. That is so clever. It's so easy, it's so simple, but it's a classic reframe. It's just the most perfect way of changing things over. Another scenario was, so in my sport, which is snooker, many years ago, there was a young snooker player by the name of Stephen Hendry. And there was the world number one at the time. The greatest player ever lived at the time was a guy called Steve Davis. So Hendry was kind of the young protege. He was the young guy up and coming, just a teenager. And Steve Davis's management team decided that they would take Stephen Hendry and Steve Davis on a tour of Scotland. And I'm not quite sure of the times, but it's something like 9 days without a break and 9 days at 9 different venues. And during those 9 days, Davis beat Hendry 9-1, 9-0, 9-2, 9-1. I mean, he just destroyed him night after night after night. And at the end of it, they asked Steve Davis what he thought of Hendry. And he said, well, obviously he's got a lot to learn. I wasn't that impressed, to be honest. But a few months later, in one of the Grand Slam tournaments, which was the UK Championship, Hendry beat Davis. And the interview at the end was, how did you manage that? Because you were nothing short of humiliated night after night after night. And Hendry sort of paused and thought, and he said, well, it might have seemed like a humiliation to you, but to me, I was watching the best player that's ever lived. And I was watching him with intent because I was learning. Because I was learning what standard I had to exceed to become the best player in the world. He said, so, whilst I was sat there, it was the best time. It was absolutely phenomenal. Now that is a classic reframe, because instead of feeling humiliated and feeling that he was being destroyed every night, he looked at it as the most valuable learning he could ever get, and he used it to his advantage. So reframing is equally as important. So perhaps, looking at pressure with a different word, which is purpose, and thinking about purpose and thinking about, going towards what's the purpose of doing what you do? Like we know is that, sports people love to, have a a visualization, a dream that they're going for. You have to have that. And when you know that you are out there playing the game that you love, playing the game that you're incredibly good at, and having the opportunity to do that, see, that's purpose. And then being able to reframe any situation so it works for you and not against you is fundamentally important. So I think the two coupled together make a considerable difference, no matter what, no matter what level that you're playing. I mean, in your career, how did you kind of cope with pressure situations? What did you do?
Thank you for asking me the question. You know, when I was studying sports psychology, every time I used to come up with a scenario or a topic, I always used to connect it with my own like professional career. And I always used to feel very gutted that I wish I knew all of this about 15 years ago, because I had all these problems when I was going through my career. Like, mostly it was negative emotions. And the problem with negativity in cricket is, like, cricket is such a mental different game. Is like, you know, you come across so many situations which bring you a negative emotion. So, like, before the game, you have different mindset. Then after, like, in the middle of the game, you have a different mindset. Then when you're feeling it, you have a different. And when you're bowling, it's a different. And even in batting, there's so many mental skills which are involved as well. So it's quite easily you get into negative frame of mind. But what I have thought or studied over the years is, like, you know, if you keep yourself motivated by being positive, then you keep going and you keep performing. So it's about how to, again, reframe yourself or put yourself from negative state of mind into a positive one, because once you do that, then the journey becomes much easier. So, like you said about purpose, for me, perspective was very important. Like, at the beginning of your career, or when you wake up in the morning, you always have to tell yourself, like, how grateful you are that you're playing the game, or your profession or your daily life revolves around the thing you love the most, which was cricket for me. I kept doing that for 10 years. I traveled around the world because of cricket. But obviously, when you think too much about these things, they take you into a negative frame of mind. But you constantly have to bring yourself forward into a positive frame of mind. So if I could work with myself, the best suggestion I would give to myself is that every time I come across a negative situation, I reframe it into a positive one. Why? Because I would say to myself that cricket is my life, and failure is not. Well, the good thing is, like, fail is FAIL, but if you just change I with L, is FALL. So instead of failure, you say fall. So every time you fall, you pick yourself back up again and start working from the start again. So every time you're into negative frame of mind, you always have to you have to change your mind into a positive one, and just keep yourself going, thinking that you love cricket. You will come across these scenarios, which are pressure scenarios, but you can use these scenarios to keep moving forward and keep doing what you love the most. And when I've studied all these players who've achieved great in cricket or in any other field, they used to love pressure, because, like I said to you before, pressure brings out the best in you. So I remember I used to hate pressure after some time, like after like second, third, first class game, there was always used to be constant pressure. So I used to hate it. I used to, I don't like pressure anymore. But the problem was, like, we used to think about the game a lot. Like, first class game is 4-day game, so constantly thinking about the game. But then when you come out, then you have to, like, think about the next game, next day, or when you travel with your teammates, the only thing you talk about is, you know, bowling today or bowling the next day. So you're constantly in the frame of mind where you always have this pressure. So my suggestion, like what I did in the later part of my career, was, like, I used to do something differently every day. Like, for example, if I had played cricket the first day, when I'll come back to my home or hotel room, I'll just go out with other friends who were not into cricket or who wouldn't talk to me about cricket. We could constantly talk about cricket brings you pressure. Yeah. So that helped me a lot. So I had more, like, friends who were not into cricket, who didn't know if I was a professional cricketer or who didn't care who I was, basically. So it kept me sane. It kept me less under pressure. And again, thinking about pressure in a positive way kept me going. And trust me, if I could do that in my career 15 years ago, my life wouldn't be much easier. And I wouldn't say if I would be an international player now, but I would do much better in my career.
Yeah, and that's perfect. I think it was the tennis player Billie Jean King who said something like, pressure is a privilege.
It is, yeah.
And I think that's important. And it's interesting, isn't it? Kind of, the way that, I use a different terminology for it, which is purpose. But essentially what we're doing is we're saying you have to have something. There's no point in going out just feeling completely relaxed, like it just doesn't.
No.
It's no good at all.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. Like even like, I think the other day I was talking about the lockdown situation. So like in lockdown, you just have to sit at home. You don't have any accountability and anything. And then your efficiency goes way down, isn't it? Like, because you don't have to go to the office. You don't have to go out. Your kids are not going to school. So you say to yourself, like, I'm not doing anything. So I'm so relaxed. Yeah. Did you get it? So when you relax, when your mind thinks you're relaxed, then your efficiency goes down as well. So I think pressure is very important. Accountability is very important.
Yeah.
And it keeps you going, keeps you motivated, and you do really good work.
Absolutely. And I think, when that level is absolutely right for you. So I think, like we said before, if you're too relaxed, you need to think, well, hold on a second, why is this? I remember there was, I think I might have mentioned this to you a long time ago during one of our many, many conversations. And it was something like there was an ex-Formula One motor racing driver who said that if everything is under control and you're completely relaxed, you're not going fast enough.
No.
And I think that's just perfect, because he's absolutely right. Is that, if you don't feel anything, then there's a problem. People say relaxed and calm and it's just lovely. No. You need something going on. You definitely need something going. It's when it tips the scales and it starts to affect you in a negative way. That's when something has to be done. But I think you're absolutely right. We definitely need that level.
I think the best thing is to just finding your sweet spot.
Yeah.
Like I always say to cricketers, the way you follow that sweet spot. I mean, when you find the sweet spot on your bat, you have to do the same with your attitude as well. Yeah. Like I remember all the great things I've played, or I would say like all the good innings I played, I was very calm in that pressure situation. So I think it's just finding a perfect zone. So we cricketers, we always talk about finding perfect zone, and the zone is where your anxiety level is under control. So at the beginning of your batting, you do get conscious, you have anxiety, but slowly and gradually when you go into the wicket and when you play a few balls, your anxiety calms down.
Yeah.
And when it calms down, then again it's a tricky situation, because then you get few runs on the board and then you think okay, so everything is under control, and I'm playing my natural game, I don't have any problem or anything. Then again there's lack of concentration. So again, I think the best thing to do is just find your perfect zone and just stay in that zone, so you don't get too conscious, and on the other side you don't get too relaxed as well.
Yeah.
So again, the best thing to do is you just every time you have a bit of problem concentration, you just talk about I'm just gonna play the next ball. I'm just going to play the next ball. I'm just going to play. So if you play ball and ball cricket, it gets much easier for you.
Yeah. And it is just, like we said from the last video, just remaining in that moment, being in that moment is essentially important. Just something you were saying just now, and again, it's another reframe really, kind of outside of cricket, but still within sport. So there's a girl I was working with who was an international runner. And there was an expectation for her to do very, very well. And she said, so it was a marathon runner. And she said, with a mile to go, if someone's just in front of me, she goes, the tension's incredible. And she goes, and it's, and in her eyes, it was a pressure situation, but it was a pressure situation as to her what she could lose rather than what she could gain.
Mm-hmm.
And something I said to her, I said, I want you to imagine, okay, that she had a 7-year-old daughter, I think she was 7. And I said to her, I want you to imagine that your 7-year-old daughter is just over there. She's kind of half a mile away, but she's in a house and she's in immediate danger. I mean, immediate danger. You have to get to her right now, ahead of everybody else. You've got to get to her and break that door down and grab her and bring her out. I said, are you going to do that? And she said, well, of course I am. But absolute certainty. Are you absolutely sure? Because nothing at all in the whole world would stop me. Because if the door was locked, I'd smash it open. I'd beat my way through the wall if I had to, but I will get my daughter. I said, I want you to think about how that feels. How does that feel? And she said, it's like nothing in the world is going to stop me. You know, nerves don't even pay it because they're not even there. She said, it is more than enthusiasm. She said, it's just a feeling of certainty because I absolutely have to do it. I said, I want you to remember that feeling. Remember that feeling inside. Remember what it is that's going through your mind right now. And when you are racing next time, and that girl, she's in front of you with a mile to go, I want you to bring back that physical feeling, which was not, oh, I'm not too sure I could do it. Now it's, I will. I absolutely will. And she's still got that purpose for doing it. It's not completely relaxed, but now all of a sudden she's attacking any fear that she had, and she's going towards what she wanted. And again, I think, you know, reframing it in that way can really, really help people of all sports.
Oh, sorry. What we forgot to do here is, like, you know, we talked about reframing, but I think we have to explain reframing for viewers a bit as well. So I will like explain that in cricket perspective, which is like, you know, every time we have a negative thought, we reframe it into a positive one.
Yeah.
So, for example, like if I'm going out to bat, I'm thinking that the bowler is like, for example, like the bowler is the best bowler in the world. He's bowling me massive in-swingers, then every time he's going to bowl me in-swinger, I'll get out. So this is a negative thought. So whenever you have a negative thought, because according to research, it's 10, our behavior is like 10% actual thing and 90% how we perceive it. So even if it's like the problem is that small, but we think, oh, it's a massive problem because that's the way we think about it. But reframing makes it much easier for you to handle it. So if somebody's bowling me an in-swinger and I'm thinking like, okay, I'm going to get out, I can always reframe it by saying, okay, he's bowling me an in-swinger, but I'm going to do a bit of adjustment with my front toe. I can open it a bit. Yeah. And every time he's going to bowl me in-swinger, it'll just naturally come onto my bat. So rather than like thinking about the negative thing, which is like, again, it's a circle, it's a spiral basically. So you think one negative thing, then the other. So your body language get negative as well. But if you change it into a positive one by reframing, then all of a sudden your mind comes into a positive state of mind where you're going to attack the batsman, bowler basically. So amazing thought. And it always works for me. Trust me, it always works for me. Why? Because remember, like, whenever I played a good inning, and now if I reflect upon those innings, I always think like, rather than thinking about the pressure, I was always thinking about what I'm going to do. So rather than like, you know, thinking about, okay, this opportunity will fail me, I used to think this opportunity will get me great fruits in the future. So I'm going to make 100 or I'm going to make 200. I'm going to perform really good. And if I perform good, I can play for my country. So again, it's a reframing process, isn't it? So like the thing is like why I used to do that. Why I did that was like, because obviously I was more experienced player. And I only started doing that in the later part of my career, basically. But obviously, like, you know, I would say I was about more than 30 years old when I learned about these mental skills. And when you're over 30 in cricket, it becomes very difficult because like a long game, you lose the interest of the game, but then there's like youngsters who are better than you. So that's why I would be like, you know, I want to do something for the youngsters to learn these skills in the early age of their career, because if they learn about it, then they can perform much better. Because trust me, you come across so many mental problems in cricket than any other sport. Like I said to you before, I've played a lot of sport, different part of sport. Like I've done scuba diving, rock climbing and everything, but cricket is mentally very, very draining. And if you don't work all these skills in the early part of your career, then it can get very difficult. And now I'm 40 years old, but I still love the game. I still want to go out and play. But what happened in the middle was, because of this pressure situation, I lost the interest in the game. So you always have that passion and love with you, but then because of that pressure situation, you think, okay, I don't want to play anymore. I want to do something else, which is not good. So if you have these mental skills, it makes your life much easier for you. And sorry, one last thing is like all the good innings I think I played, when I reflect upon those innings now, I think the only thing I was thinking about was the opportunity I was getting to perform rather than thinking about negativity. And that is the difference between great players and average players. Because if you come across all these great players, not in cricket, in any other field of life as well, they are always positive. They're always passionate. They don't say, no, I can't do that. They always reframe their thinking by saying, I will do it. Like, even though I don't think I'm the best player in the world, even though I'm playing, for example, the fastest ball in the world, but I'm going to try my best. Even if I don't get any runs, doesn't matter. I will try my best. Simple as that. So even if you think you change your thinking and reframe it into a positive outcome or something, your body language changes, your mental attitude changes as well, and there's every possibility that you perform really good. And it comes with practice. It comes with practice because obviously, as a human being, we always think about the negative thing first, because it's like the fight and flight response, isn't it?
It is. It's the most natural way.
Yeah. So if you can just like work on your brain a bit, and just keep telling yourself it's natural, pressure is natural, it will always make me better. And if you reframe it, then things become much easier.
Yeah. And just one last thing you were saying there, which was something that I personally use, is that whenever I'm faced with a situation which I can't see how I could possibly do it, then I used to say, well, I can't do that. And when you say that, you close down all the lines of possibility. It's all gone.
Yeah.
But now what I do is I'll ask a two-part question. Number one is, how can I do it? So now I start to think of possibilities. And the second one I ask is, how can I do it and enjoy the process? Because I think that's fundamentally important. Because the reason, for cricket, the reason you play cricket is because you love doing it. So by asking that two-part question, I think is really important. So it's, instead of saying I can't, it's kind of like, how could I, or how can I, and how can I enjoy the process? Because the answers to those two questions will put you on a completely different pathway. And again, it's just another reframe.
Now, when you spoke about process is very important, and enjoying the process is something out of this world, basically. If we enjoy the process, it makes everything much easier. And now how I do that is just breaking everything in small goals. Like, rather than thinking about, okay, I want to play for my country, I just say what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to enjoy the day today. I'm just going to enjoy being with my kids today. Tomorrow I'm going to do this. So rather than thinking about what's going to happen in 10 years, you just think about the day, every single day. And when you enjoy that process, then everything becomes much easier. And you think you're achieving something, rather you think you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
So again, that positivity, again, that reframing into being a positive.
Absolutely. And, I'm sure that during one video we look at goal setting. Like you were saying, all cricketers know what they want. When they're young, they want to play on the biggest stage for their country, in the World Cup or Test series. But having that goal sometimes very often seemingly it's just so far off. So being able to backtrack it, but we're looking at ways of doing that. I think that'd be a really important video.
We can always make a video on goal setting as well. But today we should just keep reframing, because we should just tell our followers that we have a lot of things to offer. So just keep watching our videos, and they'll give all the solution they want. So I would say I think it's enough for today. So what we spoke about today was the problem we were coming across in pressure situations. So we spoke about spectators, not having spectators in cricket now, and which is basically a sad thing. But we always, as cricketers, we talk about crowd pressure, media hype and all that. And now we spoke about how to take that pressure, use it in a positive way, and thrive under pressure. So how you can thrive under pressure, the solution you gave was that, reframing all the situation. And I kind of give the same, solution as well, but I did that a bit more like a cricket thing. So what I would say to my our followers is they can work on they can actually apply the solution to their own cricket basically on the cricket thought, and then use that for a few days, and then come back to us and tell us how it worked for them. Did your solution work, or did my solution work? So we can get this feedback. So, and we can get to learn as well, what works for the cricketers nowadays.
We're always learning, aren't we? We're always. You and I would have discussions, and I would learn from you, vice versa, and that's what makes it so enjoyable.
It's a pleasure talking to you, mate. It's a pleasure talking to you. Okay, thank you very much, everybody, and hope to chat to you soon, Simon. Thank you very much.
Take good care.